Well, good morning, guys. Welcome back. It is Saturday, September the 13th, and it's time for sweet potato harvest. We started yesterday on the 12th, Friday. I didn't do any filming yesterday. I'll start today, and you'll just see and learn as we go. Kind of once you see what's going on, it's pretty much the same thing. You know, there's not a whole lot of variation. We're picking them up by hand. I use a little plow that'll pop the potatoes out of the ground, and then we'll load them on these trailers. This is kind of a continuation of last video where I talked about everything leading up to this point, but in case you did not watch the last video, I'll probably repeat a few things. We have 7 acres here of sweet potatoes. The variety is Orleans, and we harvest them by hand, and we do about exactly 1 acre a day. And today's Saturday, so I normally don't let the guys work past lunch on Saturdays. That doesn't mean I don't, but I usually give them off half a day Saturday and all day Sunday. So instead of us taking 7 full days to harvest, it's going to take 6 full days and 2 half days, and we'll finish up on the next Saturday. And there's no rain in the forecast, so I don't mind doing that. If there was a weather issue, then we might push it a little bit. Once it gets a little bit more light, the guys ought to be here. In fact, I see them driving up now. It's so foggy this morning, but we start as early as we can. And I talked about last video how cool it had been, considering, not cool, but cooler than average. Well, now we're back to highs in the 96 to 100 degrees all throughout the forecast. So it's hot. It's a pretty strenuous job picking up these potatoes. So we usually shut off the day on a full day about 2 o'clock just to kind of let these guys recuperate, because it is pretty hard work. A lot of bending over, a lot of picking up. All right, what my job is I drive the tractor on the first trailer load of the day. Put my driver, who drives the rest of the day, on the ground just to have an extra person for that first load. And then after the first load, we fill up the first trailer, then we'll hook it to my truck, and I take it to the shop, and then we've got another trailer here ready to go. And so they'll work on filling up that trailer while I take the other one back, unload it, put it in the storage building, my warehouse building, put empty bins back on the trailer, and come back. And a lot of times, by the time I get back, either they're full or almost full. So early in the mornings, like now, it is so foggy this time of year, it's hard to see a whole lot the first hour or so, at least through the camera. So I'll do my best, but as we get going, like I said a while ago, it's the same thing all day long. So I'll get bits and pieces of it one day and maybe some more the next. After one day, the yields look pretty good, but you don't ever know, because it could change. Even though my field is not a huge field, it can change from one day to the next. So the quality does look very good. So I'm expecting that to stay the same. All right, we got the trailer behind us. Got one guy on the trailer. We picking these black milk crates, fill them up, they put them on the trailer, and then he dumps them. we're doing 2 rows at a time. You wipe off that glass, and then 2 minutes later it's back fogged up again. While we're in the tractor, I'll tell you a quick story of how we started using our plastic mulch lifter to pop the potatoes out of the ground. If you haven't seen that before, I'll show you that when the lighting's a little better. Maybe 6 or 8 years ago, we were right next to this field where we had rotated over, and we used to use a mechanical digger, but it was just a 1-row digger. And we had expanded our field a little bit, kind of to the size of what we plant now, and I had never had potatoes right in that exact spot because I used to rotate them in a different area, and we didn't know it, but about the width of 4 rows out in the field, and then it made a little bit of circle, there was an old iron ore road where there was an old well site. The soil was just on top of it, and when you ran your planter or a disc or a hipper, it didn't bother it. So I never really knew it was there. But that digger went deep enough that it brought those chunks of iron ore up out of the ground, and it shattered every one of my sprockets on my digger. And so we were about a day away from finishing that year, and so I wasn't sure what to do, so we rigged up my plastic mulch lifter and picked the rest of them up by hand, and I haven't used the digger since. There's advantages and disadvantages of using a digger versus picking them up by hand. The advantage on the digger is it's not as strenuous of work. Maybe it's a little faster. The disadvantages, in my opinion, outweigh the advantages because it's rougher on the potatoes. You can scar them up more. There's a lot of moving parts on those diggers, and so it can break down, and so you're having to worry about that, breakdowns. You have to have another forklift out in the field to unload the bins off the digger onto the trailer to take them back in. Well, I didn't have that, and so I either had to borrow one or rent one. Because of our soil type, if it was dry, and especially if you get a wind in a certain direction, it was so dusty on that digger for the people riding, they couldn't hardly stand it. Especially if the wind was blowing right at them. So even though it's pretty hard work, I like it better. My guys, they're the ones picking them up, they like it better. So I don't really foresee ever going back to using the digger. Picking them up by hand is not just something I do. These large sweet potato farms all over the South, they'll pick a lot of them up by hand. Of course, they have a lot more people out there at one time than I do, but it's not uncommon at all. And they really do a better job of getting all of them and leaving culls in the field and getting the good ones in the bin. There he goes with the plastic mulch lifter. I'll get a much better shot of that up close later. I try to keep the trailer even with like the last guy, and depending on if you're loading in the front or the middle or the back of the trailer, keep them from having to carry those crates short a distance as possible. They're heavy. Sunrise there coming up right over the levee. Alright, looks like we're going to have a full trailer right here at the end, so that worked out good. Alright, first trailer load of the day, so we're headed back. There you go. Alright, just a reminder from last video, these wood bins are 1,000 pound bins, 20 bushels in a bin. So when you fill them level full, you've got 1,000 pounds, of potatoes in there. This is mostly what we use, is those size bins. I've got a few small wood bins, and I've got 2 on the trailer right now. I've got a special place inside to put those smaller ones, so we're going to fill those up today. It's kind of like putting a puzzle together or playing Tetris or something, trying to fit everything inside my building. I load it the same way and stack them the same way every year, and it fits just perfect, but you got to make room of every inch. So I've got a special place to put those smaller bins. And remember last video I said too that we also use cardboard bins. Probably not going to do any today. I did some yesterday. We'll start back doing some more tomorrow. Okay, we always put 5 bins on the trailer, and it leaves a couple of feet on each side for the guys to set their crates on there and the guy on the top to walk back and forth. When we're doing watermelons, we'll put 7 bins, but works out better just putting 5 for the potatoes. We hook this string right here on this bungee cord, 1 on each side, and it keeps the empty bins from bouncing around on the road until we get back to the field. Keeps them from falling off. It's pretty tight. And then when we get to the field, we just unhook it, roll it up on that frame on the back on each side. Okay, the trailer with the empty bins is ready to go, so we'll head back to the field. All right, I'm pulling back up to the field, and they're already waiting on me. We got the trailer on this end full. Guys are on the other end waiting. Okay, the potatoes, the more moisture there is the less you can see them, even though they're right there after we run that plow to lift them up. But the guys just feel in there and they can find them. You know, that sand kind of sticks to them, especially in the mornings when there's more dew, there's more moisture. In the afternoons, it's a little bit less. But you look there and you say, well, that doesn't look like much. But then you pull all this up and see that there's all kind of potatoes right here. But they're here. It's not the best way to do it, but it's the way we do it. But the guys can just feel. They'll feel right here. They're just right. Either they're exposed or they're just slightly covered with the dirt, but they're right on the top. And that plow runs under them and lifts them up. When you look over here on the rows that we've already done, yeah, you don't see a whole lot. It's going to be stuff like this. That. Long oddball stuff like that. That's what we leave. When it rains, you can see them a lot better. You know, they're gonna miss a few. It doesn't matter how you do it, you're gonna miss a few. See how these potatoes are just laying right here on the top. There they go, they got the trailer full. So, head in. We got the water on the cabbage this morning. It's been pretty hot and they look a little wilty in the afternoons. The greens are the same way, so we're going to turn the water on the greens tomorrow. But the cabbage is growing and we've got just about a perfect stand. I'll get out and show you. Because it's a small section, only about 3 acres, we got to put 3 holes in every row so we don't have too much pressure on the pipe. And this morning I'm going to do some cardboard bins like I talked about the other day. These will be the ones that we sell in bulk. No different than the potatoes in the wood bin. When I figured those cardboard bins for yield, I always figure them at 16 bushels versus 20 bushels here. And we do heap them up a little bit, so it's possible it could be more than that, but that's the way I always figure them. And then those small wood bins that I already showed you, I got a few left. I always figure them at 15 bushels when I'm figuring my yield. You remember back when we planted the potatoes, or right before we planted the potatoes, we put soil insecticide out and incorporated into the beds. And these potatoes are very clean. They have no insect damage, grubs, all that are chewing on the potatoes down in the ground. That you don't see any of that. I'm sure there's probably a little bit, but that's what that soil insecticide was for. We also put some more right before we plowed them at lay-by the second application, so it makes a huge difference. If you did nothing, the potatoes, I would say probably a large majority of them would have insect damage on them where they've been chewing on them. But these are nice and smooth. You know, no bite marks or anything like that. These are the blades that run underneath each row. And then these lifters, which when we're using it for plastic mulch, it kind of lifts that mulch up. It does the same thing with the potatoes. Plows underneath and then lifts it up. right, let me show you how we grade these potatoes. We'll hop up here and let you look at them. Okay, something like this, it's going to be a jumbo. See how fat it is? Something like this will be a small number one. We do a small number one and a large number one. This is going to be like a larger number one. Something like this. And something like that would be a cull. That might be a cull there. The culls are going to be picked up mostly when they pick them up with those clumps. You know, they don't necessarily pick them up on purpose. A lot of times they may just be stuck in there together with them. So when we box them, we have a number one small, a number one large, because about half the people like their number one smaller and about half the people like their number ones bigger. So we make two sizes. Then we'll have a jumbo and a number two grade cull. And that's how we've always graded them. And you'll be able to see it a little better when we get them cleaned off and we start the boxing process. You can kind of visualize it a little bit better. Well, fast forward to Friday and we're still at it. Getting close to being done though. Had good weather so far all week. There's a little bit of chance of rain tonight. Hopefully if it get any, it won't be a lot. It's so dry, we can take a little bit of rain and still be okay. All right, let's walk over here and look inside my building. All right, the lighting may be a little dim. I have lights in here, but it's going to be dark when we get back in the corner. I'm pretty much maxed out on my storage space. I've got this little bit of area right here, but I got to leave room to maneuver the forklift to get in and out. So everything from here this way is going to be wood bins. They're stacked way back to the back. You can see my exhaust fan running through there. This little area right here, it was the area that I talked about putting the smaller wood bins. Because of these poles, I can't get a big wood bin right here, so I've got a row of smaller wood bins. Anyway, it's dark, but you can't see all the way through there, but I've got them loaded in different directions, and then we'll unload them starting this way and then getting over here. We've got a few wood bins on this side. Most of the rest of these are going to be the cardboard bins. You know, I've already sold some. I can put all of my wood bins in storage on this half in the wintertime, but it's because we nest them. You know, we put one inside the other. Like those stacks of 3 will just really be stacks of 4. That allows me to put them all in here, but I can't put them all in here when they've got potatoes in here, so I've run out of room. So I'm gonna put the rest of them in the cover on the back of the shop where I've got some empty boxes stored. But we can put a lot of stuff in this building here. You know, I keep all my empty boxes in the wintertime all on this half and fill them up to the ceiling. So I just run out of room this time of year. I've got to put some empty boxes underneath the tractor sheds and different places under the sheds where they're not in the way. Well, we made it to Saturday, so we're just about done. I got a couple more trailers left after this one. This is what I was talking about on the boxes. You know, I've got some stacked here in this area right here that's not blocking the door. I've got some more coming Monday. I'll put them right there. And then I've got some more under the shed. We'll use these first back here, and I'm putting the rest of the potatoes back there by them. When I sell about half of those cardboard bins inside, I can start moving the boxes inside whatever boxes I have on hand. So, you know, it's probably just a couple of weeks where I've got boxes everywhere, and the tractors will have to, a couple of them will have to park outside for a while, and it's kind of a temporary situation. All right, there he goes to get the last trailer load of the crop right there. Well, that's the last 2 bins of the season. And that's it. Oh, I'm thankful it's over. We really didn't have any problems at all. The weather was good. It was hot, but it was no rain. Last night it sprinkled for about a minute, so it wasn't anything. So we were able to go all the way through without stopping, which hasn't happened in a few years, without getting rained out. So had no hiccups really. We had one tire that messed up on the trailer, but it was here at the shop at the end of the day. It had a balloon out. It never went flat, so we changed it and put the spare on, and that was the only really hiccup we had. I've got the yield figures. Let me get them right here. Okay, I've got them written down on the sheet of paper. My 5-year average, not counting this year, is 573 bushels per acre. And actually, last year, 2024, was the lowest of the 5 previous years, so it brought the average down a little bit. This year, 610 bushels per acre. And that's easy to figure because I mentioned it, I think, in the last video. I plant exactly 7 acres every year. You know exactly how many bushels are in these bins, and so it's pretty easy to count and figure. So I was almost about 95 bushels per acre more than last year. And my 5-year average, I was up about 37 bushels per acre off the 5-year average, which is basically 2 of these bins per acre more. So I'm very thankful. It went smooth. The yields were good. The quality looks good. And now we just got to box them and sell them. But at least they're here. Nothing can happen to them. So my goal is to sell out by Thanksgiving. If not, try to sell them by the end of the year. And that's it. We're wrapping it up. And this is the last major harvest of the year. We still have our cabbage. That's not very stressful normally. We just pick that as we need it. That'll be mid-November on through New Year's, and then we do our U-pick greens. So I guess that's it. We're going to wrap it up. This video was a little longer than normal, but I wanted to get as much in as I could. Thank y'all so much for watching. It means a lot. If you have not subscribed, please do. Leave a comment, and hopefully I can answer it. And until then, we'll see y'all next time.